Okay, today's lesson is 3-5 Compound Inequalities, and I want you to take a few notes before we get started. So the definition, it says to solve an inequality that contains and u, split it into two by writing each end and repeat the middle. Then number 2, you're going to solve each side. Number 3, you're going to put the word and in between. And then to solve each inequality that contains or u, split it as individual inequalities, solve each side, and put the word or in between. Okay, so if you're watching this by yourself, pause it, copy down the notes, and then go to the example. And if we're watching in class, I'll go ahead and pause it and let you copy it down, and then we'll go to the example. The lady's picture on the bottom is, I found this from a YouTube video from another teacher, and I liked the notes, so I thought I would use those with you. Okay. Here's our first example. So we're going to solve the inequality. So the first thing our directions told us to do was split it into two by writing each end. So we are going to write each end. So on this end we have negative 32. And I'm going to keep the sign. On this end we have a negative 16, and I'm going to keep that sign. And then step 2 was, it says split it into two by writing each end and repeat the middle. So this is still part of step 1. So then we're going to repeat the middle, which is 8n here, and we're going to repeat the middle here, which is 8n. Step 2 was solve each side. So we're just going to solve like a regular inequality. We're going to divide this side by 8, divide this side by 8, and we get our large and in charge 1 right here. So we have our n. I keep the sign. 8 will go into negative 32, negative 4 times. Okay, so we did that side. Now we're going to do the other side. We're going to divide by 8. We're going to divide by 8. Again, the large and in charge 1. Let me find my cursor. Just gives us n. We're going to keep the sign, and 8 will go into negative 16, negative 2 times. The last step was, and put the word and in the middle. So I'll make it with a bright orange, or green, sorry. The word and in the middle. Okay, now we're going to graph this. So let's look and see what the graph of this looks like. So we're going to make a number line. And it looks like my numbers need to go. Here's our 0. Here's positive 2. I'm going to put in negative 2. I'm going to put in negative 4. The number line goes on forever. It goes on forever this way. Okay, so just like we did with inequalities, we're going to look at this one right here. So we have negative 4 is greater than n. So where do I start? I start at negative 4. Is it open or closed? And it's going to be open because there's no line under it. And then I look at this one. I look at negative 2. That's my beginning point for graphing this one. So negative 2. Let me find my cursor, sorry. Negative 2 is right here, and again it's open, there's no line under it. Now I go back, okay, negative 4, it's on the bigger side, so it's going to go towards the bigger numbers. So, oh boy, it's going to go this way. And the negative 2, the n is on the little side, so it's going to go that way. And so your answer is everything that's in the middle. Okay? It's a pretty bad graph, but you get the idea. Alright, so then when you write this, you can write it. You may sometimes see it written like this, where they squish it together again. So negative 4 is less than n, and n is less than negative 2. You will see it written like this, all squished together in one. Sometimes you see it written with the n in between. Alright, so that's the first example. Let's try another one. Example number 2. Okay, we have a fraction there, but again, let's not let fractions scare us. Alright, so the first step is write both ends. So I have a -1, keep the sign. I have 2, keep the sign. Repeat the middle term, which is k over 4. Repeat the middle term over here, k over 4. Then we're just going to solve each side. Again, if you do not like fractions, what do? We get rid of the denominator by multiplying both sides by 4 over 1. And then 4 over 1, but we don't need to put over 1 because it's not a fraction. Can I cross cancel the 4? Yes, I can. So now I have -4 times negative, or +4 times -1, which is -4. I keep the sign because I multiplied by a positive, not a negative, and I have k. That side's done for me. And this side, again, we're going to multiply by 4 over 1. Going to multiply this side by 4. This side's cross cancel. We just have k left on this side. 2 times 4 is 8. And we're going to put the word and in between. Okay, now we're going to graph it. Maybe my graph will look better this time. Got my number line. We'll put 0 here. We have a -4 over here. We'll put -8 a little bit further away. Or not -8, +8. Remember, number lines go on forever. Okay, this side, we're going to start at the -4. We're going to make an open circle because there's no line under it. And then I'm going to read it. K is bigger than, so all the numbers that are bigger than -4, they go this way. Okay, now the next one, we're going to start at 8, which is over here. We are going to put an open circle, and it says k is smaller than because it's on the smaller side, and that's going to go in this direction. So your answer is the shaded section. It's everything that has the red and the green line, so it's right in here, not including the 8 and not including the -4. Okay, and if you go to write it, squish it together, it's going to be -4 is less than k, k is less than 8, and that's the answer for an and compound inequality. Okay, this one is an or, so the directions for our or was to split them into individual inequalities. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to make this a -2n is less than -20. And then on this side it's going to be a -10 plus n is less than -4. Okay, we're going to solve each individually. So on this side, I'm just going to divide by -2. Divide this side by -2. Remember, when you divide or multiply by a negative number, flip that sign around. We have n. Negative and negative is a +10. Okay, the next side, we're going to solve by adding a 10 to both sides. The 10 has gone over here. It's an n. We keep the sign because we did not divide or multiply by a negative number. We're going to add the +10 and the -4, so we subtract first and keep the sign. So 10 minus 4 is 6, and as soon as I find my cursor. Okay, so now I have my answer. In between, we're going to put the word or. And that's what what you do for a compound inequality. The answer could be n is greater than 10 or n is less than 6. So let's go ahead and graph this. We have our 0. We have a 6 here. We'll move a little bit further out. We'll put our 10 here. We'll make our arrows because our number line goes on forever. Let's put a negative 6 on this side. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the 10. The 10 is open circle because there's no line under it. Okay, and let's read it. N is bigger than 10, so it's going to go in this direction on forever and ever. And let's do 6. We're going to start at 6. Again, open circle. Let me find my cursor. Okay, 6 is an open circle, and it says n is smaller than. It's going to go this way. So it's going to be, this is the or. They go in opposite directions. Okay, number 11. Looks like it's another or, but it has fractions in it. We're getting used to it. We know what to do with them now. Okay, so write them as individual inequalities. And then over here we have m over 5 is less than 1. Okay, first thing you do, let's go ahead and divide by negative 7. Divide by negative 7. This is our larger than charge 1. Because we divided by a negative, we need to switch the sign. Negative and positive is a negative, so it's going to be a negative 6. Okay, on the other side, we don't like fractions, so we're going to multiply both sides by 5 over 1. And just this side by 5. We don't have to put it over 1. That over 1 will remind us we need to cross cancel. We have m is greater than 5. Okay, and again at the end we're going to put an or in between. Let's go ahead and do our graph of the number line. So we have our 0. We have 5 here. Negative 6 over here. Remember, number line has arrows on both ends. It goes on forever. Okay, let's go ahead and graph it. We start at negative 6. And again, no line, so it's an open circle. Read it like a book. M is smaller than, so the numbers that are smaller than negative 6 go that way. And then we're going to go over here at 5. It's going to be an open circle because there's no line on it, and then it says m is smaller than 5, and it's going to go in that direction. Okay, so m can be smaller than negative 6, or m can be smaller than 5, and it just goes all in the same direction. Alright, now I want you to pause the video, and we're going to try one on your own. Okay, so I went ahead and did the work myself. So I did the two problems, and I ended up with 1 is greater than or equal to x, and x is greater than negative 6. And when you go to graph it, it should look like the number line I have there. Hopefully yours looks neater than mine, but the 1 is also included in your answer. Okay. Alright, next one. Try this one for me. This is an OR problem. Oh, hold on. I'll get it back. Again, we'll pause it, and then we'll come back, and you can check your work against mine. Okay, not yet. Okay, so here's the work that I did on that one. I've set it up into 2 separate equations, and we solved, and then we graphed. Alright, I know my videotaping was a little rough, but hopefully you got the idea. I'll get used to it. I need a little more practice.